Hello and welcome to MBA. Today's video will be exploring two more themes in Macbeth: guilt and ambition. Remember, if you're given a theme-based question, you need to make sure you can link it to key characters and events from the play. You won't get high marks if you just talk about one character or scene. Guilt. I'm sure you've already guessed who our main characters will be for this theme: Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. Both show their guilt in different ways, with Lady Macbeth holding out for far longer than her husband. Although Macbeth starts off as a strong and powerful leader, he quickly begins to feel guilty once the plan to kill the king is finalised with his wife. In Act 1, Scene 7, he tells Lady Macbeth, "We will proceed no further in this business." Through his imperative speech, he knows that what he's about to do is wrong and that there will be consequences for his actions. However, he still lets Lady Macbeth manipulate him into committing regicide. This leads on to arguably one of Macbeth's most famous soliloquies: "Is this a dagger which I see before me?" Again, this rhetorical question and the hallucination of the dagger is practically screaming at Macbeth that there will be consequences to his actions. He's clearly already feeling unsure and guilty about what he's about to do. A Jacobean audience would have been shocked and appalled to think that he would even consider killing the king, let alone actually going through with it. Macbeth continues to show his guilt straight after the murder, when he comes back with the bloody daggers, which were meant to be planted on the guards. He panics, gets anxious, and could have sworn he heard someone cry, "Macbeth shall sleep no more." This guilt is quickly stopped by Lady Macbeth, who takes over. Despite the guilt that came with the murder of King Duncan, Macbeth then has Banquo, his best friend, killed too. He seems to handle this a lot better than the first murder. That is, until Banquo's ghost comes back to haunt him at his coronation. The ghost becomes a symbol of Macbeth's guilt. By having his best friend killed, it shows how evil Macbeth has become. Lady Macbeth, on the other hand, told the spirits early on to stop up the passage to remorse, meaning to take away any feelings of guilt for what is about to happen. This seems to save her for the majority of the play, where she's able to keep up the appearance of a loving, loyal and doting wife. She keeps Macbeth on the straight and narrow when his own guilt starts to show, fainting at the appropriate moments and making the guests leave when Macbeth hallucinates at the banquet. Lady Macbeth is unable to continue this throughout the whole play, when her own guilt gets the better of her in Act 5, Scene 1. This is interestingly the direct opposite of Act 1, Scene 5, when she first calls upon the spirits to help her face what's to come. It seems as though she's suppressed her guilt throughout the play, and it eventually comes out in her dreams while she's sleepwalking. In Act 5, Scene 1, she makes various references to what's happened, such as seeing the blood on her hands that she had previously believed was easy to get rid of. She says also, "Who would have thought the old man would have so much blood in him?" in front of her maid and a doctor, who are unsure what to make of her midnight ramblings. Shakespeare is showing guilt consciously through Macbeth and subconsciously through Lady Macbeth, suggesting that our guilt will always surface after our wrongdoings. Remember to be careful of those examiners. The question in front of you might not specifically use the word guilt. So if you get a question about morality or who's to blame for these characters' downfall, these would be good points to make. Now for ambition. You guessed it, Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are the most ambitious characters in the play. Together they orchestrate the murder of King Duncan to keep the crown for themselves. However, let's not forget that Macduff is also ambitious, and definitely for better reasons than the Macbeths. Thanks to the witches, their predictions make Macbeth even more ambitious than he is at the start of the play. Without these predictions, the murder wouldn't have been likely to take place. In Act 1, Scene 4, we see his true ambition when he learns that Malcolm is next in line to the throne. In an aside, he states, "That is a step on which I must fall down or else a leap, for in my way it lies." Talking about Malcolm being next in line, before stating he wishes to hide his black and deep desires from others. That's pretty ambitious of him, showing that he's already thinking of killing the king before Lady Macbeth gets involved. Ambition is definitely Macbeth's fatal flaw. If you're feeling fancy, you might refer to it as hamartia. What that means is it's the trait that is ultimately the reason for his downfall. The more he needs to kill to get what he wants and to retain the crown, the more he becomes ruthless and selfish in getting what he wants. Lady Macbeth is incredibly ambitious herself, going against the role of the Jacobean woman. She's supposed to be submissive, loyal and kind, but instead she becomes transfixed with the idea of becoming the queen and manipulates Macbeth into her way of thinking. She notes that Macbeth is ambitious, but that he is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way. Her ambition takes her as far as to involve the supernatural, something a Jacobean audience would have feared. She speaks to the spirits, asking them to unsex her and stop up the passage to remorse in Act 1, Scene 5. Here, her ambition is unparalleled. Even though Macbeth found out the initial predictions from the witches himself, it is Lady Macbeth that chooses to call upon herself to catch the nearest way. You know how I said that ambition is Macbeth's fatal flaw? Well, I think you can probably apply that to Lady Macbeth too. But all ambition isn't bad. It can be a good thing, as shown by Macduff. He's ambitious towards his country and to ensure that the rightful king takes the crown by the end of the play. It's positive in this respect because it shows that it can be a good thing if you are ambitious to help others rather than just yourself. Macduff doesn't want to cause Macbeth's downfall to benefit himself. He wants to cause it for the good of Scotland. He would be a great minor character to reference if you are given an ambition question. Of course, the question in front of you might not specifically use the word ambition, so if you get a question about power or control, you can talk about these characters and events as well. So that's it for this video. We've looked at guilt and ambition, two of the biggest themes in Shakespeare's Macbeth. I'm Kate with MVA, and I hope this has been helpful.